Hello everybody and welcome to the Cedar Bay webinar. This webinar is the latest in our current series and it's based all around purchasing. So it's the power of purchasing, and we're about to cover some of the benefits that you can get using IFS and the benefits around procurement. If I just go through a couple of housekeeping issues, there are a couple of key points to mention with regard to housekeeping. The first one is we've actually got all your microphones on mute. That's not because we don't want you to ask questions, that's just so that we can get sort of part of the webinar underway. If you'd like to ask a question, you'll see on the right hand side box there is an element there that says questions. Please just post your questions in there. When we've finished the PowerPoints, we'll give you an opportunity to do to ask some questions, and we'll respond to them then. We've also got a recording of this webinar, which will go into the info hub on the Cedar Bay website. We will send you a link to that at the end of the webinar so that you can access that. And we can give you a copy of the slides should you wish that for review later on. The final thing to say is that we've got a few survey questions which we'll be asking you throughout the webinar. So if you wouldn't mind just taking a little bit of time just to give us a bit of feedback, we'd find that really useful, and we're very, very appreciative of that. If I just take a minute now and hand you over to Debbie. Debbie Fink is the consultant that we have going through this webinar. She's actually very experienced in IFS. She's got over a decade of experience using IFS, and she's actually used multiple areas of the product: manufacturing, supply chain. She's also got some experience in project management, so she's very, very experienced. She's worked in both the US and Europe and covered multiple areas of the business. So I'm going to hand over to you now, Debbie, and if you could take us through your webinar, we'd be very grateful.
All right, thank you very much, Joe. Thank you all for attending today. Hope everyone's having a good day. Just to let you know, today's webinar, I'm just going to be sharing with you like a high-level overview of some of the advantages of the IFS purchasing module and what it can do for your business. This module does offer a unique set of capabilities to help you develop your purchasing process, which can support your strategic choice of suppliers, assortments, and markets that you've done. So in this webinar, we're just going to be talking about a few points. So we'll cover some common challenges that we all face in our business in the procurement area. We'll definitely cover the power of purchasing and what IFS can offer you. And then we'll kind of walk through some of the process elements to let you see some of the details about how IFS can help you out. And then Joe will come back with a conclusion of our webinar. So some of the common challenges that lots of us face in our business are these 5 things here. I've done a lot of research on this, and this really summarizes what a lot of us face. So first, we can talk about poor supply chain transparency. So it's sometimes quite a challenge to really understand what's going on in our supply chain from beginning to end. Where are things? Are suppliers delivering? Are they meeting our expectations? There's just lots of areas that we don't have visibility to. So IFS's combination of IFS supply chain modules can help deliver value and reduce cost while achieving a complete view of our supply chain activity. The next thing is the need for better risk management. Our procurement teams have to manage it all. They have to start with managing supplier contracts. What are all the market risks, the availability of the products, or price volatility? They have to be aware of potential frauds that are out there, theft or invoice fraud. We have to manage compliance risk. Are people adhering to our policy? And that can be internal or external. The procurement team always has to monitor all of our suppliers and ensure that all delivery demands and standards are being met. IFS's integrated procurement system can definitely provide an efficient way to manage centralization of your purchasing processes. They definitely help with data being transparent, and they complete the supply management tool. It reduces risk and definitely processing time, and it can help you with supplier relationships. The next challenge we all face is control and visibility of spending. We occasionally face the issues of uncontrolled spending, definitely some accidental orders, or when we're in a rush and we need to get something out the door quickly, sometimes we don't always cover all of our bases and stick to the company's established procurement procedures when these kinds of things happen. And all of these things can definitely result in possibly a loss of revenue. It can affect our inventory management, and it can help, hinder us in some of our financial audits. But IFS's solution can help automate that spend management, and it helps you gain control over any indirect spending, and it helps you to track complex spending structures that you've negotiated with your suppliers. The next challenge I know a lot of us chase is inaccurate data. If any of you use multiple systems to get all your data in, you know that when those systems aren't linked, that definitely can cause some inaccurate data problems. There's a lot of manual data entry that might happen. You don't have the ability to make those sound procurement decisions that you need to. It can definitely, or it can affect your inventory, and you might have excess inventory or even inventory shortages. But IFS's centralized data solution can help with analytics and planning and macro scale decisions and ensure that all of these workflows go smoothly all throughout the stages of procurement. And obviously this helps you gain better data accuracy when things are flowing easily from one module to another. And our final challenge that a lot of us face is compliance to contract. So we've taken all the time that's needed to negotiate with our suppliers, and we want to make sure that they're fulfilling their obligations, and sometimes that can be difficult to check. We want to make sure that our suppliers are delivering the quality promised and in the dedicated timeline that we've set up with them. Using IFS solutions can help you with key performance indicators. It records a lot of the supplier performance details, and you can easily check whether suppliers are meeting our expectations and keeping up to the terms of the contract. So the power of purchasing. As you'll see here today, this purchasing is a main component of any supply chain management system. And IFS easily handles multi-site companies, allowing the ease of the complications of centralized purchasing. A lot of the standard routines can be automatically run with a minimum effort, which allows you to focus on managing exceptions. It cuts out a lot of the non-value add steps in your procurement process. IFS's solution offers this wide array of statistical functions, which allows you to have detailed analysis of your supply performance, including part quality analysis. So some of the components in any purchasing process are certainly optional. Here we see that we can go through the process from requisition all the way through to payment and analysis. IFS's solution helps you track the interactions throughout this process. It definitely streamlines the administration of this. And again, with companies who operate with multi-sites and in a global environment, it helps you achieve better pricing through the centralized processing, through centralized purchasing. Sorry. So now I want to talk about some of these elements in detail. The requisition. So this is obviously an optional part in your process. This can be done usually by anyone in the company raises a requisition. And so this can be done manually, or you can generate requisitions through the process of MRP or order proposal, or even through our master scheduling module or supply schedules. This allows you to take advantage of IFS's integration. Requisitions can also be authorized. So if you want to have that really tight control on what's going on in your purchasing area, you can get each requisition authorized by the supervisor of a department or even a higher level. It's up to you. And this helps you meet that challenge that we talked about on the first slide of control. you want to be able to control the different purchases that are happening in your company. Let's talk about authorizations just a little bit more. So authorizations can be handled on all of the purchasing objects within IFS. So you can handle it on your purchase requisition, your purchase order, or even your purchase order change order. We're going to talk about change management a little bit later. The authorization rules might apply to several sites within your company. IFS allows you to set up all those rules, and you can use them all on any site within your company, so you don't have to duplicate that setup. You can set up your authorizations based on a variety of parameters, such as the amount, or maybe who's actually buying it, which buyer is doing the transaction. You can also set up purchase groups on your part. So any specific purchase group that you feel should be authorized or have a specific rule, you can set that up. And there's many, many more options on this. Perhaps you need only one person to authorize, or maybe you need 2 or 3 people to authorize, depending on possibly the amount of the purchase, or maybe what's being purchased, or maybe even which supplier it's going to. You can base your rules on the organization position for each person, or who can authorize might depend on specific roles within a project, or any other designated specific group that you would like. The authorizer in IFS can also have the option to reject the purchase. So if you feel like this is not the right supplier, or it's just too expensive, or it's too many, or they just simply don't want to buy it right now, they can reject it. You can also enter in rejection reasons to keep track of what happened through this process. You can, if an authorizer is not available to authorize, it can be forwarded to another available authorizer, or it can be superseded by a specific person that's allowed to be able to do that. IFS also utilizes our lobbies that allow the authorizers to be able to see, oh, I have 16 purchase orders that I need to go out and authorize. Another way of automation in our system is notifications can be sent out. So you can let your authorizers know via email or some sort of message that, hey, you have something to do in IFS, or it can also notify the actual originator of the purchase requisition or purchase order that their object has been authorized. Again, this allows you to meet the challenges, the second and third challenge of risk management and control over your purchasing. The next area here, request for quotation and the actual quotation. Obviously, this is also an optional element in the supply chain, but it can be very useful for you. So say you have a first-time purchase. You can send this out, you can request a quotation from different suppliers, then all of those come back in, and with some tools that are created in IFS, you can then manage which one is a win and the other ones that are a loss, and you can give a loss reason or a rejection reason. And then you can send out even a nice letter to all of those suppliers that you did reject. The request for quotation can be set up manually. It could be used for one-time purchases, or maybe you want to set up an agreement with a supplier that you want to purchase for a long time from them. So this unique little tool helps you meet the challenges that we talked about as far as visibility and also control over what's being purchased. The next nice element I want to talk about is the supplier agreement. So after you've taken the time to negotiate prices for each of the parts that you would buy from this supplier, and you've negotiated the dates that these prices are valid, perhaps you want to keep up with over each month or each quarter or even annually, prices may change, hopefully to go down a little bit, but maybe prices go up. You can keep track of your pricing history on the parts tab of this screen so that you can see how far you've come with them and if this is really a supplier that you want to continue working with. You can also use this supplier agreement over different sites within your organization. So if you're utilizing centralized purchasing, you can apply this agreement to all of those sites. So whenever they purchase particular parts, they'll always get the same rate. There is a hierarchy within IFS for the pricing, and there's lots of different areas that IFS can pull the price of a purchase part from, and supplier agreement is the first one in that hierarchy, and this is a great way to really control the pricing that's going on your purchase orders. This can be set up to be for a blanket purchase order, so if you know you're ordering several things for a long time, or it can be set up as simply an agreement. So this is what we will buy, how much we will buy, how long we will buy it for this price. Again, this addresses several of our challenges, definitely in the risk management area, our data validity and accuracy, and compliance, so that we know that our suppliers are meeting the obligations that we've set forth with them. Another nice tool that IFS offers is supplier schedule. So you might purchase, especially in the automotive industry, you might order a mass quantity that you need in your manufacturing. So this would be probably for parts that you order often, very repetitively, and you have your demand schedule. So you want to set up a supply schedule. So you would set up this agreement with your supplier saying, this is how many I want, twice a week, once a week, 3 times a month, and exactly when it should be delivered and how much. This can be generated in 2 types, either with plans or call-offs, plans being more of a forecast, and then a call-off is the firm that you want this many on this date. These can be generated manually or through our integrated system of using MRP or Kanban system. This allows you to communicate to your suppliers up-to-date material requests. This can be changed as often as necessary. This goes back to Joe for a moment.
Okay, thanks, Debbie. That's great. Okay, guys, this is the first question for the survey. If you wouldn't mind just taking a minute or two just to give us your responses to this, I would really appreciate that. Just a few options just to tick off. I'll give you just a second while you do that. And please don't forget there are some, there's an availability to ask a question should you wish to do so. So if you'd like to take the opportunity to do that, we'll be very happy to answer those at the end. Okay, just give it another couple of minutes while we collect the responses. I think we're just about there. Yeah, coming in thick and fast now. Okay, Debbie, I think you can move on.
Perfect. Thank you so much for your participation in that. So the next element I want to talk about is our purchase order. Obviously, this is the most important part of our purchasing process because this is where we actually send the order to the supplier. Now that we've gone through getting all the right prices, we've organized an agreement with them, we've set up a schedule, how often we want to get our product from them. Now we're going to actually process the order. So this can be done several different ways. It can come from the supplier agreement that we talked about a little bit earlier. It could be a release from that purchase, that blanket purchase order. It could also come directly from the supplier's schedule. So as we've confirmed the firm orders, then we can just generate a purchase order from that supplier's schedule. It can actually come from a customer order. So when your demand comes in, you can set it up that as soon as I release that customer order, that a purchase order is automatically created. It can also come from a purchase requisition. So that first step in that process, it could just be simply converted to a purchase order. These can also be entered in manually if you choose to do so. And these can also be created directly from the request for quotation that you got from the supplier. And what's really nice about this too is you can link your purchase orders to a specific project if you use the project module of IFS. Again, this pulls in all of the wonderful advantages of the integration that IFS offers. So you want to keep up with all of your expenses and or revenue related to a specific project, easily link it to that. You can also set up different milestones and stage payments for each purchase order. So as you get through a specific milestone, then you know that that's when you need to be making a payment. On the authorization, I just wanted to show you an easy way that on the purchase order screen, you can see here in this blue outline that this specific purchase order is waiting to be authorized. Authorization is required. And then further on one of the tabs called authorization, you can see here, this is where we've set up multiple authorizers need to see this purchase order and authorize before it can actually be released to the supplier. As it's authorized, you will actually see the authorizer ID and the date that it was authorized. You can set it up to where it's authorized in a specific order, so someone in the second level cannot authorize until the person in the first level has authorized. You could also set up to where it doesn't matter which order that they authorize in, just as long as these 3 people do the authorization. Again, with all these nifty tools in place on this specific screen, you can meet a lot of the challenges that we talked about earlier. This definitely gives you some data transparency, definitely gives you some control of what's happening within your purchasing, and it definitely gives you some accuracy with your data because most of it is automated and kept track of. Now let's touch on change management. This is also another optional element, but it is very powerful because what you could do is after your PO has been released to the supplier, for some reason, it happens all the time, you need to make a change to that purchase order. Maybe you need to change the quantity. Maybe somehow the price changed, or a myriad of things could be changed. You could simply go into the purchase order itself and make the change on the line. Or for better tracking purposes, you can use our change order, purchase order, change order. And this is a separate object in IFS, and it's linked directly to that purchase order line. You enter in what your previous quantity and your new quantity is. You could even see your previous price and enter in your new price. Down here on the bottom of that screen, you can see the total of what the previous total. You can see the change that you just made based on the quantity or the price, and then you can actually see the new total. Up at the top of that screen, you can see what the purchase. This one, you can see that it's been released to the supplier already. You can also see the status of this particular change order. This one's still in plan status. If we were to go back over to the purchase order, this little checkbox would show up, pending change order. So maybe the change order has to be authorized before it can be released. So once it gets authorized, then you would actually then just, process that change and it would update the purchase order. Then you could either print to the supplier a whole new purchase order encompassing those changes or just the changes themselves. It's up to you. The next element is the receipts and any inspection you might do. So inspection is obviously optional, but IFS offers a very detailed inspection plan that you can set up. And maybe you want for certain suppliers or certain parts, you want to inspect 10% of the delivery. Maybe you want to inspect 5 out of every order. Maybe you want to inspect every part that's received. Maybe you want to inspect every other delivery from that particular supplier, or maybe you can set it up to where it be every 10th delivery from that supplier. You can base this on supply, or you can base it on which particular part this is. So your inspection area can be really detailed and very powerful, so you know exactly what needs to be done and when. Again, this can be used in coordination with your MRB process. So you really can keep track of exactly where that receipt is, what's happening with the inspection. And on the inspection, when you're entering the inspection results, you can at that point scrap or return it to the vendor. And here you can also have the option to upload any photos. So as that shipment comes in the back door, you can take photos as you're doing inspection, open the box, take pictures, and then upload them to that receipt or inspection result. And this helps meet a lot of our challenges regarding the transparency in your process, with all of your risk management, making sure that you have the right quantity and the right quality of product that you expect, and if it's on time, and if they're complying with the rules that you set up before in the contract. And back to you, Joe.
Thank you. Okay, so one more survey question. Just interesting, a little bit of information about yourselves now. Now, we've asked you here if there's any information you would like on any of these 4 topics. If you'd just like to give us a clue, which one of these, if any, is applicable to you. And obviously not just in your current version, if you're considering an upgrade in the near future, there might be some changes in one of these areas that you're interested to know about. So if that's the case, then please just let us know. We'll do our best to come back to you with an answer. What we'll do, just give us a contact detail. If you tick a box here, then we'll give you a call and just say what is the issue, or if you'd like to sort of follow up with an email after the webinar, then we're happy to respond to that. Okay, I think the answers are coming in, almost there. Okay, thank you, Debbie. As soon as you're ready.
All right, thank you very much, Joe. So on with a few more of the fantastic options that you have in IFS. Relationship management. This is a big challenge for all of us. This 360 view on the supplier really gives you the visibility you need, acts as a really nice dashboard so that you can see the whole picture of what's going on with this particular supplier. From this screen, for instance, you can actually generate some transactions. You're looking at your supplier, you know what you've ordered, you know how many purchase orders or purchase requisitions are open. You can actually generate a requisition here, or you can generate a quotation, a request for quotation, or you can generate an order from here. There's lots of different tabs that you can see, supplier schedules, to keep up with what's going on with our schedules. The supplier agreements that we have with the supplier. Maybe you've got some old ones, maybe you need to create a new one. This really allows you in one screen to be able to click around and take a complete look at what's going on with your supplier. You can also see here that you can keep up with your product quality and the reliability. How often are they delivering on time? You can also see any financial info here, the POs for this year, for this month, for last year, really keeping track of what is going on with your supplier. There are lots of other tabs that are available so that you can look at even more information. Maybe you want to look at all the authorizations that have been done for purchase requisitions and purchase orders and so on. You can take a look at the receipts history for this particular supplier. You can keep up with all rental info for your supplier, or any support info if you've got some open support cases with them, and many, many more. Let's touch a little bit on analysis and other options that are available. Here's just a couple of screens that I wanted to show you that allow you to see, again, have that clear visibility as to what's going on in your supply chain. This one is supply chain purchase order analysis. So for any specific purchase order, you can see the demand that it came from. You can see all the lines of that purchase order and the status of each one of those lines. You can see the customer order, the demand that it came from, and what's going on in each one of those lines. You can really take a look from one purchase order, all that's related to it. I talked earlier about milestones and stage payment. This screen offers you the ability to see where we are in those milestones. Have we received the payment, or have we made the payment? What's left? Just really keep control over that milestone and stage payment process. Other things that are automated, or that you can automate within IFS, is internal order processing. So if you work between sites selling and buying the same products, You can easily set it up to where if I have a demand on site A and I enter my purchase order, it would automatically go through the internally to the other site that actually makes that product that we need to sell to our customer. Just automatically generate a customer order on the other side. Once that's fulfilled, it would close that customer order and come back over to site A, showing that that purchase is complete. If you use handling units, and I know this is used in the automotive industry, IFS offers complete managing of your handling units from the point of coming in the door, if you want to repackage it in a different way, how you want to store it within your inventory warehouse. Handling units are easily handled within IFS all the way through the supply chain process. This is also another point I want to make with our integration in IFS. All of these options work with our MRP area, or your demand planning, or even your Kanban. Automation, automation, automation. So in summary, you can see that there's lots of benefits that our IFS purchasing module offers. We've talked about a few of these already, but I wanted to point out that you can also have an approved suppliers list. So you know which suppliers that you want to buy this particular product from. You can set up a list of those approved suppliers for those particular parts, and so that your purchase orders then would only be able to be processed for those particular suppliers. I touched a few seconds on automatic reminders and notifications all throughout the process. You can set it up to where people that need to take action can be reminded and receive notifications via email or a pop-up message within IFS, or utilizing that lobby area of IFS. Also, supplier warranties. We can definitely set those up so every time you do an inspection and something didn't come in as you expect, or you didn't receive something, or it's broken in shipment and you need to do a return, you can keep track of what's been covered by the warranty so that you know how that needs to be handled, if you'll be charged for it, and so forth. Another thing that IFS offers is utilization of EDI. So you can definitely communicate just via the internet with your suppliers, and so it even automates a lot more of your data handling. So as orders come in, or those supplier schedules are those firm lines are ready to be processed, it can automatically send that information to your suppliers, and lots of other areas can be transferred via EDI. So lots of automation and lots of visibility into exactly what's going on within your supply chain. And you can keep track of what your suppliers are doing, and if you need to change some agreements with them or possibly change suppliers. And back to Joe for one final question.
That's great, thanks Debbie. Okay, one more poll question, if you wouldn't mind just completing this. Always looking for feedback. And if I can just take this opportunity to thank everybody for being on the webinar. I appreciate that all people here on this call from all parts of the globe. I know we've got some people at the crack of dawn in the US, and we've got other people the other end of the time frame in other countries in the UK, Europe and Asia. So thank you for attending this webinar. We really do appreciate it. I think we've just about got the answers in now, Debbie, if you want to move forward. I think we're getting quite a mixed response, in fact, so that's good news. Okay, final slide, is it?
Yeah, actually, we are down to the conclusion. And Joe, would you like to tie this up for us?
I will do that most definitely, thank you. So in conclusion, there's three main areas here where the procurement and purchasing functionality sort of gives you a benefit. First of all, with efficiency, you can clearly just streamline the high frequency purchasing transactions. You can minimize the excess inventory and shortages, and you can reduce the non-value added steps through the tight integration. So in other words, it makes your process much more efficient and removes a lot of the manual input and the manual process. Agility, you've got a much greater ability to adjust any changes in the market and trade policy. As soon as the changes are announced, you've got a much faster response to try and adapt your IFS configuration and your IFS usage. And finally, you've got your relationship. This does actually elevate the complex supplier interactions, and it also brings purchasing, the supplier and the end customer together in one single view, which obviously makes the user interface so much better. So I hope you all agree with that. Clearly now that's the webinar concluded, but we will ask a few questions or answer a few questions if there are any. I know we've got at least one sitting here. So Debbie, if I can just ask you this one. We have been asked whether or not IFS can handle supplier consignment stock. I wonder if you could give a couple of moments on that, please.
Oh, great. Okay, thank you, Joe. Actually, yes. IFS is very detailed in the way you can set up supplier consignment. You can set it up on your part, you can set it up with the supplier, and the transactions flow so easily that you can, it's very easy to manage the inventory transactions. It eases the ordering processing, and it also helps keep track of the billing really easily. So it just becomes just a part of the overall process without much effort whatsoever. So easily see and communicate with the supplier where things stand. So.
Okay, that's great. Thank you for that. It doesn't look like we've got any more, unless anybody's sending one through as I speak. Let me just double check. No, I think that's it. So thank you very much, everybody, for attending. Appreciate that. As I said, we'll be sending you a link to the recording for anybody that wants that. There'll also be a quick survey in there. We're very, very welcoming of feedback. And if there's anything that you would like us to cover that we didn't cover today, please let us know, whether you just like a quick email on a couple of points or whether you would like to give us a topic for a future webinar. We're very interested in that. We will send that link to you in an email very shortly. In the meantime, I just want to say thank you very much. Thank you, Debbie, for taking your time to do this. And we'll hopefully speak to you all or communicate with you all very soon. Thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone.